This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Welcome back to the State Fair, ladies and gentlemen. Middle portion of the 9 to noon radio show. We thank Chad Greenway for joining us. And now we welcome in the television play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Wild and an overall elite sports mind. Can we get a witness and a raucous round of applause from the throng for Anthony LaPanta? Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Heir Apparent joining us here at the State Fair. What's going on, Heir?
Not much. Just getting ready for the start of hockey season. Got some baseball on my schedule this weekend. So it always, at this time of year, you start to realize it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess, from training camp starting. And you get a little chill in the air. It's for football season starting means hockey training camp's right around the corner.
I'd like to begin. We have plenty of time to discuss the Wild with the Heir Apparent, and he's an elite sports mind, but doing television play-by-play for the Wild, there are some pertinent questions bouncing around. And Wild head coach John Hines will be with us here 1 hour from now. So Hines,
he can correct everything I think.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know about correct, but maybe playing from the heart and being open about certain things. You know, where teams have a tendency, like Kaprizov and stuff like that, to not offer up maybe some things that you'll offer up. But I want to begin with the Twins. And I'm just, because Anthony does, is it fair to say desk work, pre, post, stuff like that?
I have the pre and post game shows tonight and tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's, I filled in the booth a little bit this year too, but it's
okay.
Pre and post game guy.
Well, let's, there's been a lot. Since we last chatted. Now all of a sudden,
things have changed.
Yeah, there's been a lot since the last game I worked, so we'll see.
I mean, now they're scoring 6, 7, 8, 9 runs a game, and there are a fair amount of people who are filtering through who constantly are new to people sitting in the stands and yours truly. So I'll just begin it like this. See you, Chad, and you take it wherever you want to go. Minnesota Twins baseball. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a transition for sure. And I did a bunch of games early in the season. I haven't done a game since early June.
Okay.
And I've got this weekend and have some games in September.
Who do they have this weekend?
The Padres.
Here.
Okay. Right. And it's so the last week and a half or so, I've flipped the games on a little more often to get caught up again. And there are a lot of faces and names that
it's unbelievable.
That were different.
Yeah.
And I've been following it for sure. I'm half in jest when I say that, but it's transition. I mean, This was a team that came into the season expecting and hoping to contend, and that didn't work out. So there's been a lot of turnover, and now it's time to turn the page, and there are some exciting young players to watch, and Luke Keishel's at the top of that list. He looks like he's got a chance to be a legit star. Byron Buxton's having an unbelievable season, the season that for the last how many, 6, 8 years, you wondered if he could stay healthy, this is the kind of player he could be. Well, now he's been healthy, and this is the kind of season he's having. And if you had said at the beginning of the year, this is what Buxton's going to give you, you would have probably said, all right,
we're contenders. Right.
So there are some exciting young players to watch. Unfortunately, there's not a pennant race to watch. And that's the tough part at this point in the season.
Well, this probably is not the greatest question to ask at this moment with the Minnesota Vikings season on the horizon a week from Monday. I'm all wound up over that. Charch now lives in Utah, so he's full throttle into Brigham Young University football recruiting.
And Mammoth hockey.
And Mammoth hockey,
yes.
And the Heir Apparent.
It's kind of a big deal there.
It is.
The Heir Apparent has training camp for the Wild in a couple of weeks, and we're all sweating Kaprizov or waiting for the Kaprizov bit. So, I mean, he has a lot on his mind, too. But I'm going to pose it anyway. because I just have wondered this and didn't look it up last night. With that mass exodus of players, the 10-ish traded or whatever, has anybody happen to know if anybody they moved to other teams? Is anybody lighting it up? Like Carlos Correa had a nice little run for a little bit with Houston, but now if I look at his box scores, they're kind of what you would expect from Carlos Correa. Did like anybody? I'm looking at quizzical faces right now.
I haven't
wondering what's the next topic.
I haven't looked at the stats, but I mean Duran he's an elite guy at the end of games.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did see Harrison Bader playing the other night, just on some highlights. And Correa's going to be Correa. It's hard to necessarily say like he's lighting it up because what he brings is something you have to watch on a nightly basis to really appreciate just how good he is defensively. Mm-hmm. He isn't going to carry an offense, but he is a guy that he's going to lock down your infield defense. And so I'm sure he's doing that. I haven't watched them on a nightly basis either. So I don't know that there's anybody that I'd say, like, once they left, they've all of a sudden just taken off. And
well, Chris Paddock did for a second. Then he faced his former team and got lit up, and he hasn't been the same since.
That's kind of the way he's been for the last couple of seasons. So I don't know that there's any of those guys. I mean, other than the one that was Duran's the guy that we still had some term on his contract. So when he was dealt, it was an indicator that, okay, they know that this isn't likely to be a team that's going to contend right now or even next season. Otherwise, that's probably the one deal you don't make.
How's Brooks Lee looked with Correa gone?
Good. I mean, nobody's going to look like Correa,
right? Short.
But this was now you had to say, all right, well, it's time now to run this guy out every night and see what you have. And it's kind of the same with, the future of the team has Brooks Lee and Royce Lewis in your infield. So you got to run those guys out every night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brooks Lee is going to be a good player. I don't know that he's ever going to be a platinum glove winner.
Well, no, that's a big ask.
But he's going to be a good player.
I don't expect you to know a lot about like horse racing and how horses get up to the Kentucky Derby, Breeders' Cups, even though you work a fair amount of the year with Kevin Gorg.
But I hear it, but it just goes
in and out.
Drift through.
I'll lay it out like this.
Right.
They're like to get to the Derby, Kentucky Derby, which is a sporting event where I don't look at horse racing as a sporting event. A lot of it's a short-term investment. What we're going to do in the first race Saturday at Canterbury at 5:00. Well, that's not a sporting event. That's a short-term investment. The Kentucky Derby is a sporting event because even the heir apparent, a lot of people in the stands might take a peek at it or pay 15 minutes of attention to it, up to it, just to get some names maybe for a family pool. So to get to the Kentucky Derby, there are what are known as prep races. Florida Derby, Santa Anita Derby, Bluegrass, all that. That's what we are today for you for Twins TV this weekend. Because when you said, I haven't done a Twins game since early June,
right.
I'm all right. Well, we better start getting him ready with peppering him with things to think about.
So do I have to win this show to get to work
that's
tonight?
Right.
Is that how it works?
That's right. You could get chopped if you're not careful.
It's TV, so and it's a pro team, so therefore, that has some stakes raised to it, and. So we'll begin here. Jake Cronenworth for the Padres. Your thoughts? Just kidding. Just kidding. You Darvish. Ever since he's come back, has the screwball been good?
I know we're going to talk about Luis Ariz tonight.
Yeah.
So that's
right.
Will be which I did look at some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Just because of his ties to the Twins,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had a ton of success since the Twins traded him.
Why has Machado been so good the last 15 games compared to Tatis? I think it's controversial.
I don't know. It's I was just amazed when I looked, and I just started digging into this last night, and I mean, Luis Ariz' batting average isn't where it was.
Yeah.
It's still 285 or something. He has 15 strikeouts.
Wow. That's the whole year?
560 plate appearances.
Jeez.
It's unbelievable.
Ryan McMahon, the former Rocky for the Yankees, has that in a series.
Every series.
Yes.
I mean, these are like Tony Gwynn kind of numbers. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to watch the Padres.
Well, what are you going to talk about for the next 24 minutes? Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We'll probably revisit Byron Buxton hitting a couple home runs.
Don't give up on Royce.
Good times.
They did steal 5 bases the other night, so I think we'll probably talk about some speed for the Twins.
Yeah.
Zebby Matthews, the last couple starts haven't been as good as his previous few, so I'm sure Glenn Perkins will weigh in on that. He's a part of the show tonight. Tim Laudner, it's his show. I'm just the traffic.
Is he still nicknamed the Reverend because he only works on Sundays?
Yeah, now he works every home game. That was originally where the nickname came. That was in his very early days of he and I working together, and it was Ron Coomer doing most of the shows.
Yeah, he was great.
Roy Smalley did a few, and then Tim would come in on Sundays, so we called him the Reverend.
I love it.
He preaches, so when he preaches, you listen.
I don't like to be, the voice of the fan, where I know what every single fan's thinking about the Twins and how you feel in your heart. However, over the course of time, when devastating would be too strong, when there's change en masse. Like, it's hot with the Twins right now with the fans. It's loud, man. I mean, you see it, you followed it, you've heard it. However, fans will wait, okay? They always do. I mean, they may complain about it, and they may get loud about it, and they may not like it, but generally speaking, they'll wait.
And they'll come back.
For you to get good again, and they'll come back because that's part of the essence of a fan.
Yeah, and that's what makes our jobs what they are, is the fact that when the team's good, they do come back. And I've had this conversation with a lot of fans over the last, let's say, 4 months, talking mostly about Wild hockey.
Yeah.
Where,
like if they don't sign Kaprizov, I'm pulling my tickets.
Well, that and they'll start to talk about that I'm so tired of just being a playoff team. And
right.
I always turn to them and say, well, what would the alternative be? Do you want to be the Sharks and be lousy for a decade?
Right.
And, well, if it mean I'd win a cup, well, there's no
guarantee you're going to win the cup. You might just be lousy and stay lousy.
The second thing I always ask him is, okay, but now let's just look at it from the other side. Would you be willing to commit right now that for the next 10 years, you're going to keep your season tickets, you're going to keep paying $120 a game or whatever it costs for your seat, that you're going to watch every game on TV so the TV ratings don't dip, even when the team's going 20 and 60 every year?
Cover your ears or listen to Joe on the radio. Okay, you can uncover your ears.
I don't, because I just don't think there are a lot of, go to Chicago right now, the building's half full.
Really?
You go to San Jose, the building's half full. You go to these cities where they've been lousy for 6-8 years, the fans aren't there. Now they'll come back when they're good, and I've always been a Blackhawks fan. Well,
always.
It was, there was nobody there for 10 years. Then they got Taves and Kane, and for 10 years you couldn't get a seat in the building.
Wow.
And now since they've hit the bottom again, it's a totally different feel there. And San Jose is quite literally half empty every night. And now
management looks at it as half full.
Well, that's true. and now some people just look at it as the glass is broken and there's glass everywhere. And what are you going to do? But
look at Arizona. But they were look at their situation that they had. Awful.
Until they moved to the college arena where that was full every night with
2,000 people
with visiting fans. Yeah.
What was it like calling games there?
It was actually kind of fun because it was Mullet Arena.
Was it ASU?
Yeah, and it was like being back at like Aldrich Arena. That was you were about that close to the rink, so it was the speed of the game was really cool to call from that spot and to be like in the crowd. Basically, there were people sitting 8 feet away from you watching the game. That part was kind of fun, but it couldn't long term succeed. The locker room facilities were terrible, and you can't possibly sustain what you need to
the revenue
sales when you're selling 4,000 seats a game. And I don't remember the exact deal, but it was something like when they built the rink, they had to have like 600 or 800 seats that were available to students. So students could buy them for like $8 a ticket or something like that. Well, they just sold them all. They got season tickets to Arizona State hockey, but also anytime the Coyotes were playing. Well, they would just sell them all in the secondary market. Well, the team doesn't make any money.
No, they don't.
The team made $8 a ticket.
Right.
I forget how many it was.
Yeah.
I think it was either 600 or 800 in this one end of the building.
Tommy Tickets is out here buying mansions.
But so they were all the visiting team every time because those were all the people that were in Arizona. So that end of the arena would always be the visiting team's jerseys and sweatshirts and everything.
That's what they said was going to be the case in Las Vegas, that it was all going to be visitor team support. But it didn't turn out that way because they were great right away. They were the first pro team in Vegas, and that whole town turned into a hockey town, and now nobody cares about the Raiders.
Well, I questioned the same thing when they came in. I said, I don't know how you can rely on visiting team, on guests, on travelers, on vacationers. You could when Minnesota comes or when Chicago comes or the Rangers or Edmonton or Toronto. But what about when Columbus traveling in or Philadelphia even? And I remember the first time we went out there, and we were walking the streets, the night before the game, Wild fans everywhere. And I went over to their broadcasters and I said, is it normal? Like, I think there's going to be 50% Wild fans here tonight. And they're, no, it's the same as it's about 20% visitors, and it's the same. Well, that night, Jason Zucker scored the first goal of the night. And half the building erupted.
Exactly.
So I was like, guys, there's no way this is half Vegas fans. And when Minnesota beat them that night, I think it was like 3-0, or it was something where most of the Vegas fans left.
Okay.
And the only thing missing was the goal horn when Minnesota scored, because it was essentially a home game for the Wild. And now it hasn't been quite that big in our future trips out there, but it's been about a third usually. But you're right, Vegas was good immediately, and all of a sudden all the locals became Vegas fans. And the next year I was out there, the Wild were coming on the weekend, but the game earlier in the week was a national TV game. So I went out early, and I went to a game there between the Flyers and the Golden Knights. And there couldn't have been 200 Philadelphia fans in the building. I mean, it was all Vegas fans. So I think that there are some teams that still travel well there, but they've developed a fan base that is passionate for Vegas hockey, and you see Golden Knights apparel everywhere you walk around that town.
Yeah, but I'm in the Comcast Covenant. What about 1261 tonight at like 6:30 or 6:50? I mean, what about the Twins pregame with the Padres?
Well,
you're in the hope selling business, my brother. What you going to talk about tonight?
Well, we're gonna go with the Twins hit a bunch of home runs against a lefty the other night.
Yeah.
They face a lefty tonight.
Okay.
So we're going to start with that.
You've already had the meeting.
We've had
we
talked about our show last night.
Got it.
I've talked to the Reverend already. Got to make sure that we're caught up on things.
Go down to Audra for a one-on-one with Manny Machado.
I think Audra's going to talk about the base stealing the other night when they stole 5 bases, and we'll have plenty. Once the Reverend gets going, it's not like we're trying to fill time. It's more like, hey, hurry up, we got to get to break here, bud.
Good.
Talking about fan bases and the way that Vegas has bought into it. What do you think about Utah in terms of that? Because I know that, like, Austin Matthews is from Arizona. You think about building the game, the health of the game, trying to keep a footprint there down in the Phoenix area. But the team clearly was not going to be able to find their way to revenue in that city. So they move. And what is the aura around that? Utah was one of the last places I ever would have thought, to be honest with you, that would find their way to an NHL franchise.
Yeah, and it was really cool to be out. I hadn't been to Salt Lake City in 25 years.
It's gorgeous.
We went last year. It is a beautiful city.
Yep.
Clean and just kind of a quiet, sleepy little town in between. Like it is eerily quiet when you walk around the streets of downtown. But I was surprised at how excited their fans were for it. It still is a really different feel. It's kind of like when Nashville first got a team. And
are they banging on the glass?
Yeah, a little bit. And occasionally, like, the music will start during play like it does in an NBA game because they're playing in the Jazz building. So it's the same game ops. And that happened a couple times in our 2 trips out there. They're refurbishing the arena or remodeling the arena to make it more hockey friendly, because on one side it's just a curtain that hangs down because they had to fold up the basketball seats to make it fit. But apparently they're really doing a great job. The facility is great. The locker rooms and everything are first rate. But the fans really are into it. And there are a lot of Minnesota fans that live out in that part of the country right now.
Don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's really something, and we saw a ton of Minnesota fans when we were out there, but they're into it. The building's full every night, and I think they're going to be they're one of the sleeper teams, I think, in the West this year to be a contender to make the play, not a contender to win it, but to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but what about 1261 tonight at 6:30? Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth, Merrill,
I think
Darvish. I mean, come on, man. This is the prep race to get you ready for the race tonight, man.
I'm ready for tonight.
Okay.
It's going to be good. Yeah, I don't
think he wants to talk about it.
There's only so much you can really talk with the state of the Twins right now. This is the time of year where during a baseball season, I'd say late August to the first week or so of September, they will refer to it as the dog days, because if you're in the pennant race, it's great. Every single night you can talk about how big this series is, how big this game is, and right now these are the times where it's a challenge. When you're 15 games under 500 and everybody knows that there is no playoff race, it isn't like they've won 4 out of 6 or lost 8 out of 10. None of that really matters. It's more about are the young players making the strides you want to make, and to me that's where it's that doesn't do as much for me as the wins and losses in a pennant race. And the same can happen in any sport. Like we had, not last season, the season before, we had it with the Wild. We're down the stretch. You knew they were out of the playoff race. And it's only, you can only talk so much about that, boy, this guy certainly looks like he's getting better on faceoffs. I mean, it isn't the most exciting time to be following a team when you know they're not in the playoff race. But
in fairness and honestly, this is not FanDuel Sports North Network. This is Twins TV on the 1261 and the Comcast Covenant. So if 4 people are watching or 400,000, you still got a job to do, right?
1261. I had no idea what that.
That's where I watch Twins baseball.
Now I know.
Yeah, so
I didn't get it
thought
either.
it had to do with San Diego, and I was like, what is?
You don't have to concern yourself with the voluminous or lack there or whatever amount of people watch tonight. It's not the.
Well, and I will say, like,
you just love this, don't you?
I don't mind it, but
sorry.
I mean, that really never is my.
Sure, it's not.
Never really been my.
Sure, it's
deal.
not.
It isn't.
Then the Wild make the playoffs, and 285,000 listen to Joe and Tom, and now all of a sudden the people meter matters.
I would rather have a lot of people watching, but I've never gone into a show like, you know what, I don't think anybody's watching tonight, so I'm gonna just mail it in.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the days of KABL when I was calling, White Bear Roseville girls volleyball on tape delayed TV. There might have been 15 people that would ever watch it, but you still tried to make it sound like the 7th game of the Stanley Cup.
It was still.
It doesn't really matter.
I got you.
But 1261 now makes sense.
I'm going to be watching you tonight just off this conversation.
That'll be perfect.
And speaking of 1261, you realize all our kids don't even know what a channel number means, right? They don't understand that, 12. What is 1260? They don't even know what the number means because now all the apps and everything doesn't have.
Same with phone numbers. Nobody knows anybody's phone number. It's
That's
just
a good point.
Saved in my phone as.
Well, our first guest at the fair 8 days ago, Tatum Everett with the Vikings Entertainment Network. Well, one of her formative early jobs in her career was in Nashville. Can't remember the station letters, but it was Channel 17.
It was Fox 17, I think.
Yeah, I'm like, 17?
It only goes
to Channel 17.
Right.
And she's like, well, it wasn't really Channel 17. It was another number. Well, then why do they call it 17?
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a good destination for the Twins for the 2026 season.
It's
anyway.
668 at my house. So on the 668 tonight, there's going to be award-winning.
Well, that's because you have DirecTV.
Can't wait.
That is a DirecTV. I know that.
Yep.
Well, you were talking about whether 4 people, 400,000. It doesn't matter. I'm not mailing it in. It just it brought up the moment, summer of 06, you and Bert, and just one of my favorite moments in your career.
Aren't you glad you came here?
Yeah, I'm always glad.
Was this when Bert dropped the F-bomb?
Yeah, that was
Bert. We're on live TV.
Good. That was on Fox 29, if I remember right.
You thought you were taping? Wasn't there a Toy Hunter package or something going on?
Yeah, it was. It was Joe Mauer and Derek Jeter were in the batting race that year, and we had done the series together out there. And the previous 2 days, in Bert's defense, which there's very little defense because you just can't do it, but the first 2 days we had taped that segment. That day we had taped the second segment because of when the anthem was going to be played, and we were going to cover the anthem.
Yankee Stadium?
Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
So then we're doing the segment live to open the show, and Bert got caught up.
My man clearly remembers.
And he says, we got to
ain't laughing. He's chortling.
He said, we got to do the whole effing thing over again because I just effed it up. And I
Bert.
The producer's yelling in my ear, like, what did he just say? Do something, do something. And I was like, well, we're live. And a little while later, I get a text from home. Margot was at home, and Vinny was, I don't know, he was maybe 6 years old, 8 years old at the time, and she said...
Started saying the word the rest of his life.
No, Vinny just came in the other room and said that Bert said this on TV, and I was like, well, Vinny's right.
Now, Paul, what do you know about somebody inadvertently dropping an F-bomb on live TV? Can you? I can't. Can you think of anything?
On live TV?
Yeah.
Yes, but... Brandon Molesky, the master control supervisor for the KFAN Minnesota Vikings audio network, dumped it.
Nice job, Brandon.
I'm a radio guy at heart, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, gotcha.
Because I never heard it.
It never happened.
Yes.
Anthony LaPanta, TV play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Wild. We'll get into some hockey conversation with the heir apparent, nice enough to join us at the State Fair.
LaPanta.
After this.
Life moves fast. A new home,
a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Minnesota State Fair. It's Nordo here. PA joining us again shortly. Ball charging. It's part of a Friday football fastball forechecking feast, and that's, of course, in the mix. Anthony LaPanta, not just handling desk duties with the Minnesota Twins as he has for so many years, but also play-by-play guy, Minnesota Wild. We'll just start it here with what is becoming or has been kind of the A topic, Anthony. Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Well, it sure sounds, the team's confident that as soon as he gets back in the United States, there will be a face-to-face meeting and that they'll get a deal done. The Wild are going to offer him as much money or more than anybody else can offer. They have the ability to offer him 8 years. I'm certain that what they have and will offer will exceed what any other team can. Right now, another team could offer 7, but next year when the new CBA kicks in, there's some debate as to whether it takes effect at free agency or a couple of months later. So there's somebody else might be able to still offer him 7 years. The next deal is only going to be 6 if you're signing somewhere else. So I think there's a very little chance that Kirill Kaprizov isn't inked to a long-term deal here in Minnesota soon.
Let me ask you this, because we had Michael Russo, the Athletic, and he always, by the way, you guys have been friends for a long time, always takes shots at you.
I know.
What's that about?
I'm not sure why. I think it makes him feel better or something. But we did a podcast last night, and he got a little grief from listeners and podcast, what do you call podcast listeners? Are they just
podcast devotees?
Okay, podcast devotees. Because of the fact that all summer he had been saying, like, listen to me, LaPanta, there is no way Marco Rossi is going to be a part of the Minnesota Wild next fall. No chance. And I kept saying, well, I actually think he's probably going to be back. And of course, now he's signed. And so I don't know why he feels the need to take shots, just because it bugs him when he's got all the inside information and then I end up being right.
Well, just quickly, how do you do it? I mean, the way you just laid it out with Michael Russo Radio, and I can say this because Kevin Gorg is a 27-year best friend of mine. I work with him at Canterbury Park for about 40% of the year. But he's loud. Kevin can be loud. How do you do it? I mean, you're around those guys so much.
Noise-canceling earphones. It's on the airplane. They're a must, because Kevin sits a row behind me and across the aisle, and it is nonstop. It doesn't matter. It could be the horse races he's bet on tomorrow. Yep. He's got his 18 placards of his fantasy football teams.
Yes, I love that.
His daily bets on whatever he's using, his golf pool for that week. And now this guy's short game is this. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You just throw in your noise-canceling earbuds.
Okay.
And good to go.
Okay.
No, but both of those guys they're friends of mine. I've known Kevin since 1990.
Wow!
And
if he had the color coded markers, and I mean, you see the artwork that he puts together.
Calligraphy pens.
Right, he carries a baggie of like 40 pens.
They're calligraphy pens.
I know, I'm aware, and it takes him forever. All morning he's over there drawing here's my placard of the.
Yes,
his penmanship is terrific.
You could
delete.
Go to a computer and hit Control P and print this, and you'd have the same information.
Yeah,
but they're both good, and Michael is passionate about what he does, and there aren't very many beat writers who work harder than him, so I like to give him a little grief with all his inside information that it ends up missing.
Nordo, you were saying?
Well, I was just curious, part of it, talking with Russo yesterday, going back to the Kirill topic, and there's so much with this team, by the way, to jump into, but specifically with 97, kind of the idea, maybe just the team's ability to give him the most money, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe the idea is really what is the trajectory of this organization that's around him and what Bill Guerin and company kind of have to do, right? It's not about one player, but in terms of Kirill in particular, it is about him, and therefore what he needs to see or hasn't seen affecting part of this conversation with maybe the term of the deal, the years involved in it.
Yeah, and I think there could be legitimacy to that. It's nothing I've ever heard from Kirill or from anybody around him that he has question as to whether or not the team can win. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a factor. Mm-hmm. And so it wouldn't shock me if he came and said, look, I don't want to sign 8 years with Minnesota. I'll sign 5, and let's see where we are after 5. I don't know that to be true. There always is that wonder in the back of your mind, the fact that it hasn't already been signed, like there has to be a reason, and it might just be as simple as hasn't sat down face-to-face with Bill Guerin yet, and that might be it. Or it could be that, you know what? The cap is going up. I'd like to see what I might be able to grab in terms of money 3 years from now. Maybe I want to see how the rest of the roster develops. It's all speculation as to what might be the holdup. But when you talk to the Wild people about it, they seem pretty confident that it's just we haven't had that face-to-face meeting yet. So we'll see what happens when he gets here. If something isn't done in a quick time, like in the first couple of weeks or in the early part of training camp, then I think it would be okay to start to wonder, like, okay, well, what is it? Why aren't you willing to sign? Why aren't you willing to commit? But I haven't heard anything tangible from him or from anybody that's in the know around him that would lead you to believe that he has doubt that where the team is headed right now.
Russo on with Danborough yesterday said that Kaprizov's going to become the highest paid player in the NHL. He has, at least, I think in particular last year, with injuries and other things, wasn't nearly close to the best player in the NHL. And the playoff series...
He wasn't until he got hurt.
That's true.
Yeah. At the time he got hurt, a lot of people were talking about him as the leading contender for the Hart Trophy.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if he would have won it, but he for sure would have been in the conversation.
And his playoff series to me was just okay. You know, I think there were big moments when that series was going sideways, and you know he wasn't somebody where you're like, well, let's just get the puck on his stick and make something magic happen. I think 9 points in 6 games, which isn't bad, but I don't think they were super effective 9 points. It's obviously we want to keep him. He's the identity of the franchise here, and he'll be the highest paid guy. But I guess I get to frame it up as a question is, you still have to make him the highest paid player, right? I mean, you can't. You have to do everything you can to keep him.
For sure, and the Wild will. And you know, let's just say if they offer him over 8 years, $15 or $16 million. I mean, you're talking about 120 or 128 million
standards. Yeah,
it is a lot. And the cap is going up. Where a couple of years down the road, maybe that number would be 18 per. But when you start to look at it and take away a year, because even if next year another team can still offer him 7 years, well, to match what you can get over an 8-year deal with the Wild, now somebody else has to go to 19 to make the total package be the same, and I'm not sure anybody's going to be willing to do that. And if you wait 2 years, where now the most they can give you is a 6-year deal, now you got to get to 20 or 21 per. So there's no guarantee that somebody else is going to match or that there's going to be a whole bunch of teams lined up that will match the total value of what Kirill's deal would be. And I mean, this is the best player the Wild have ever had, and it's a player you absolutely have to keep. And he's the player around whom you build, so it's not as much what are the other pieces? And if you say, hey, Kirill's got concerns about what the other pieces are, well, the other pieces, none of them are as important as this piece. So the Wild have to get it done, and they will.
One more before we pause, Charge?
Yeah, so you finally get some cap relief from Parisi and Suter, and then you immediately have to sign the most expensive player in the NHL. So we've been waiting all this time to have some depth with the cap, and then now we've got to pour really effectively almost all the cap savings into Kaprizov.
Well, that's true. The other thing that changed this was Brock Faber. He came out of nowhere. They didn't expect that this was going to be a guy and it's a great problem to have, but the money committed to Brock Faber, that's the money that they were thinking would be committed to a free agent.
Right.
Well, you got something better because you got your own guy that you were able to sign. They still will have some extra cash where it probably will come into play is that they'll have the ability to react differently during the season. Let's say there's an injury or a need is exposed, they can now make a deal for somebody where last year they had zero flexibility under the salary cap to make a trade, even if they had wanted to make a trade prior to the deadline. This year they should be able to do that. There will be ways that they can move guys, and the roster already is a little deeper than it was at this point last year, but that's where that will come into play as much as going out and making a big splash free agency signing. The guys that signed this year, I mean, that's why a lot of these teams wound up signing their guys before they hit free agency, was they started to look around and said, well, there's a whole bunch of people with money.
Yeah.
And let's just lock up our own guy and not roll the dice that we'll find somebody better on the open market.
Anthony LaPanta, Wild head coach John Hines joins us here at the State Fair about 15 minutes from now.
9 to noon.
Be right back.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Final segment, Voice of the Wild. Anthony LaPanta here in the booth at the Minnesota State Fair. Paul Charchin is here. PA joining us momentarily. So what do you get most pumped about as we get closer and closer to camp and everything, 2025, 26 Wild?
I just am so anxious to get back to work. To get back to calling games, that's first and foremost, and we'll get a chance.
Oh, you love works. You love working so much.
I do. I mean, this.
You hate the golfing. You hate the free time.
I have loved my golf summer. Don't get me wrong. This has really been.
Your deep tan is unparalleled right now.
Yeah, I've got
European vacations.
Got some pretty good tan lines where the golf glove is and everything. It's been great, and it's. My twin schedule.
Did you break 100 this year?
I have broken 100.
Oh, good for you. All right.
I have just barely.
Yeah.
It's been great. I've loved it. But I always tell people that if I won the lottery, I wouldn't quit my job. I love what I do, and I cannot wait to get back to calling hockey games, and that's what I'm most excited about, is just to, and it's a grind, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's 7 months.
It is.
You're going to the rink almost every day, and you're on the road, in and out of hotels.
Hotel, airplane.
And even when you're home, a lot of times you're really not home. You're home for 5 or 6 nights, and 3 of them are game nights, and then you're throwing your suitcase back together to go. But I love every minute of it. I love every part of it, and I just can't wait to get back. You know, you're traveling to the best cities in North America, staying in unbelievable places, watching the best hockey players in the world play in full arenas with the atmosphere in there, the noise, the speed, all of it. I can't wait to get back to work.
Talk to me about Brock Faber and where you feel like his development arc is through 3 seasons.
I think he's exceeded expectations.
For sure.
And there's even though they thought they were getting a pretty good player, I mean, nobody thought knew that they were getting who they're getting. And I think he's got a chance to be one of the true elite defensemen in the NHL, top 20 type defenseman, maybe even a little better than that. And it's just such a stable kid and hardworking, and hasn't seemed to let any of his success change the way he approaches his game, the way he prepares, any of that stuff. So I don't see any of that change. I don't see any reason why that would change. And as long as it doesn't, he's going to be a superstar.
He got asked to do so much so early, and I don't think that's a timeline that typically an organization would have wanted. And a lot of players would crumble under that. But
especially in his hometown.
Sure, with all the extra pressure, scrutiny, absolutely. But man, has he risen to the occasion?
He has, and so far nothing has. And look, his game's not without flaw. I mean, he's still got areas of the game that he'll improve. But I think we'll see him make a jump offensively this year. I think he's proven the ability to play a sound defensive game even against some of the best.
Yeah.
And one of the big things for Minnesota this year, I mean, they have to stay healthy, but particularly the strength of the club is still their defensive core.
Yeah.
And with guys like Spurgeon and Brodin and Faber anchoring that defensive core, they got a chance to be one of the top defensive groups in the league. And he's a huge part of that.
With and then you see, it's so interesting to see a Faber take advantage of his pro minutes and run with it, as you just laid out. But then you look at like Zeev Boyum, and so kind of trying to temper your expectations or temper your anticipation. You believe what the finished product will be is good, but it's interesting to see. Similarly, jumping in, getting limited opportunities, but just how different players may handle similar moments or similar pathways so differently. I'm super excited about Zeev, just hoping that part of that defensive core, part of the foundation of this team, that he's a part of that being good as well.
Yeah, he's going to be a big part of the future for sure. Totally different than Faber. Totally different player, and Faber's playing a half hour a game.
Right.
Boyum's not going to play that. He just isn't. And part of that is because of who else is on this defensive core, where when Faber first burst on the scene, they were banged up on the blue line, and they needed him to play 30 minutes a night. So Boyum's a different player, but a player that is different than what the Wild have. They don't have that offensive-minded type defenseman elsewhere. And so I think I'm really excited to see how he looks and how he fits. I mean, there's no guarantee that he's going to, really isn't even a guarantee he's going to be in the opening night roster yet, let alone in the lineup in a certain role. But I think long-term and maybe even short-term, he's going to be the guy that's running a top power play, that is one of the guys you really lean on to help generate offense from your blue line core. He looks like he's got all the skills in the world, but the NHL game's different than anything he's played.
Yeah. Great to see you, brother.
Yeah.
And thank you, you two and everybody, for picking up for me that last segment. I don't know if you saw what happened.
It looked like a little milkshake mishap.
Milkshake, holy cow. Went to take a picture with some lady, and I feel bad for the lady because that cold beverage that she had that she spilt all over my leg and my pants might have cost $10. So it took a little while to clean up. We have Zach Halverson on the scene now.
Halverson, ladies and gentlemen,
cleaning up.
You gotta like that.
The remnants I left. but that's what I was doing over
I'm
there.
impressed with the fact that you guys had a squeegee on hand.
Yeah, right.
We'll see you soon, okay?
Anytime.
Anthony LaPanta, ladies and gentlemen, card-carrying member of the Love Covenant for many, many years. And we segue into the final hour of 9 to noon today before the program with Dan Cole, the common man, and the interim with John Hines, coach of the Minnesota Wild. He joins us next.